Well, first of all, I forgot to set up the live stream in advance like I usually do. Sorry. And then I went to set up outside, and the neighbor is doing some kind of wood chipping over there, so I'm elsewhere in the yard now. It's actually not as cold as I anticipated. And then I accidentally set off the live stream, and then my phone was upside down and stuff, so we're good now. Welcome to the last episode. Whew, everything's crooked because I'm on a little hill or something here. Oh dear, let's hope nothing spills. Whew. It's a little chilly, but it's not raining. We've made it the entire time, 19 weeks, without getting rained out. So that's pretty cool. Oh, and forgive my dirty fingernails. I was picking up chestnuts this afternoon. There are way too many. They're all around. I'm under a chestnut tree, and my fingers are sore and dirty. Got some kitties around here somewhere. They're like, "What are you doing? Why are you dragging that chair over there?" But, dirty fingers. Let's hope I don't get my book dirty. So there's one person in here, and I was a little late today, or on time, or something. I'll give it a minute. It's a little confusing today. I hope people notice that I'm on. Oops. I don't know how I forgot to put that up this week. What was I doing? I don't know. I've been doing the diary related things and acting class and whatnot. Oh, that came unbuttoned. Got my cigarettes here. Let's see, 2 of those and some of those. Let's not drop anything. And I can't believe it's nearing the end. Oh, I missed it. I'm sorry. But hello, second person. Wow, I can't believe it's already almost the end of October. This is crazy. The days go so fast. I feel like I just woke up 3 hours ago or something. I think about what I've done today and it feels like nothing. Although I do try to take weekends to relax and not think too much about getting work done, because you need that sometimes. I should do a little painting. Make sure that's okay. Yeah. Oh, was that a kitty leaping? They're so funny. I think it's a kitty over there. What are you doing? So 5 people. All right. Good. Now we've got a crew. Sorry for anyone who was wondering what was going on this week. I just completely forgot to put up the, reminding link and whatnot, and then had a little issue past 5 minutes. Came outside. I was like, oh no, I forgot that thing. And then I scheduled it with 5 minutes to go. And then I'm like, oh no, the neighbor's using a wood chipper. I have to move everything. And yeah, craziness. So we're on chapter 19. Let's see, that's a little, okay. I think it's a little far away today. Maybe I should move closer. Oh, the ground is, so far. Do this. It's a little better. All right, so we're on chapter 19. Also, let's see, before I start, so I don't forget, I am looking into doing an audiobook. I noticed that this book is in the public domain, so I think I can do an audiobook. I also might, because there are so few copies, I might find a way to republish the book with a nice cover through Amazon. Maybe I'll make a little painting or something and just kind of put out a new edition of the book. Would that be cool? Yeah, I wonder about illustrations. I mean, I don't think I could do them. I don't think I know. That would take a long time. But just the cover maybe. But the audiobook, I'm going to look into that because that might be fun. I need to learn how to pronounce some Latin words. Don't know how to pronounce them very well. So I'm looking into that. I also looked into that software someone mentioned last week. I'll let you guys know if and when I do it. It'll take a while. As reading through each of these chapters takes like an hour, and it'll take longer with an audiobook to edit things. I looked at that optical character recognition software someone mentioned last week for the diaries. Let me show you something. I tried a couple online. It didn't recognize a thing. Maybe like a word here and there. I'm not even sure if they were correct, but let me show you. This is what this diary, it's very difficult for me to make out, and I'm trying to decipher it and type it up, but it doesn't seem like any online machine. I tried three different websites and it couldn't do it. It didn't see letters, so thanks for the suggestion, but I'll try it on other diaries that aren't as crazy maybe, but this one just, it's too difficult for it, I guess. Oh, I lost my place, so where's the chapter? There it is, okay. Here we go, into chapter 19. The wait for the reply from the Archbishop seemed endless. From the moment the old chaplain had agreed to write, Sister Luke had no idea of what was to happen next. It was like waiting for a D-Day of sorts. She combed her memories of convent life, trying in vain to recall if she had ever heard a whisper of how secularization was accomplished. Once or twice in communities where she had been, a nun had quietly disappeared from the scene. One from the Congo had been flown home under mysterious circumstances. Their names were never mentioned thereafter in the sisterhood. Intuitively you knew that they had returned to the world, although no official announcement was ever made, and all details of how such a transformation took place had to be guessed. She was sure there must be a definite procedure, an exact set of acts to be performed. She wondered if, before she came to the moment when she must make them, she would discover what they were. Activities up to a point were easier to imagine once back in the world. She would have to exchange immediately her nun's identity card for a civilian's. She would have to learn about money and how to get around on streetcars and buses without a convent chaperone to lead and pay the way. That sounds nice. And beyond that were 17 years of separation from books, plays, scientific discoveries, political affairs. We light a cigarette. I'm going to do an herbal one. I'll try not to get ashes on things. Ooh, my bag is down there. I don't want to get anything on my diary. Ooh. Okay. Squirrels and cats everywhere. This one has the lavender in it. But it was that grey middle place, somewhere between the signing of the papers and the removal of the religious habit, that was a little frightening. It gave the taste of death when she thought about it, not the tender memorial deaths inside the cloister, where the refectory place of the deceased was set every day for 30 days, but something sudden and absolute, like a vanishing into space. The high wine of death flying over Belgium in the form of jet-propelled rocket bombs aimed for Britain seemed to explain to her sisters, aware of her concern with the war, the look of death on Sister Luke's face as she waited. Since the Normandy landings a few days after her petition had been sent to Malines, she had hardly spoken except as duty or courtesy required. Lisa never betrayed by look or word that she was aware of what was going on. She's already a nun, Sister Luke thought, and a far more perfect one than I have ever been. Boy, a lot of smoke today. On a day in early August, her uncertainty ended. She could not guess when the dormitory bells clanged that morning that her last day in the convent had dawned. But as soon as she entered the chapel and faced her superior for the bow, she knew that her papers had been received. Mother Didymer knelt at her prie-dieu, with hands clasped so tightly the knuckles were white. Without seeing her face at the coif cut off, Sister Luke suspected that she had been weeping and was now struggling for poise after learning she had lost a soul from her community. A rush of sisterly sympathy, the first she had ever felt for the glacial superior, turned her meditation into a soliloquy. I wish I could have told you beforehand, ma mère, but my talk with the Mother General was the last I could endure on this painful subject. Everything since then has been said between my conscience and God, and you must know, of course, that I took pains to find out that in wartime you will not be humiliated for my defection. But your pride suffers because I chose the way of the confessional instead of through you. A strange peace flooded her soul, and when she looked inward at the place where anger had burned and gladness for deaths of the enemy, there was nothing but the silvery quiet of ash. She went then to the communion rail. Only one profane thought intruded as she waited for the host to pass. She hoped that the community would remember this afterwards and realize that she had made her peace with God. I'm not leaving the church, only you, my sisters, and our holy rule that I'm not strong enough to conform to. Remember this and feel no slight or sorrow. Then she prayed. She moved with grace from the altar rail back to her pew, wondering where her next bread of heaven was coming from. A rocket bomb whined over the chapel as she knelt to say her thanks. She then began the last slow steps with her sisters which had never been seen or described in advance. Mother Didymer headed the procession out of the chapel. She waited in the hall until all the nuns were assembled. Then she said to the community, "After the breakfast, the sisters may convene for a few minutes in the chapel hall to say adieu to Sister Luke, who is going to Antwerp." Her cool eyes sought Sister Luke. "And you, sister, will please come to my office immediately after." The procession moved into the refectory bound in silence. There were the prayers, the seating, and the passing of the bread. Sister Luke took the thickest slice from the basket and covered it heavily with jam. The nurse had taken over the nun in her. "You're going to eat," said the nurse, "even if it kills you. You've got a long journey ahead." The farewells in the chapter hall were brief and poignant because two of the nuns, with whom she had always felt a wordless bond, had guessed her intention and showed anguish in their eyes as they embraced her. One whispered, "Have you thought of your black boys waiting for you in the Congo?" And the other, "Are you sure this is God's will and not your own?" 19 times she felt a smooth cheek laid against her own and smelled the sweetness of soap and starch. The only thing she had to leave them with was her smile. She gave them it from her heart, then turned abruptly and went out the door without looking back. The next steps were toward the superior's office. She walked hurriedly, desiring only to get everything over now as quickly as possible. She had the odd thought, as she stood outside the superior's door, that she ought to have gone upstairs to the dormitory and turned over her straw sack and made her bed. The memory of those orderly acts, which she had performed every morning after breakfast for 17 years, made her hesitate for the fraction of a second before knocking. Mother Didymer sat behind her desk looking at 3 papers laid out upon it. Despite her desire to show the sympathy she had felt in the chapel, Sister Luke froze under the gaze of the woman she had never understood. Confronted by a fait accompli, the superior wasted no words. "I presume, sister, that you had the goodness to inform our Reverend Mother General on her recent visit to us." "I had not come to a clear decision then, ma mère. I told the Reverend Mother only that I might go out." Sister Luke longed to add, which is perhaps why, since she hoped ever for a miracle of grace, she did not discuss my spiritual state with you, Mother Didymer. But the cold eyes asking only for facts discouraged her impulse. "I asked the chaplain to telephone her when the petition was granted," she said stiffly. "And why, may I ask, was I not informed?" "Because I could see no issue from further discussion, ma mère. Have you weighed well the enormity of the step you are taking? Your physical health, for instance, the state of the world you desire to return to? Yes, ma mère. Sister Luke looked steadily into the Superior's eyes to show she was not afraid. Very well, sister. I must ask you then to read this paper very carefully before signing. There are 3 copies, one for you, one for us, and one for the papal archives. Once you place your signature upon it, you are no longer a member of the congregation. Stonily, the Superior handed her one of the papers. It was under her eyes then, the tangible answer to all the years of trial and error. The nurse in her said, "Don't let your hand shake." Oh no, I forgot my... in the dirt. I have a tissue. Put that. My nose is a little runny. I forgot my ashtray. I forgot something. Okay. The seal printed on the letterhead was a cardinal's flat hat with stylized tassels dropping symmetrically about a shield inscribed "In nomine Patris." To Sister Luke, she read, "In the world Gabriel Vandermal. Upon your request, by apostolic authority delegated to us," the lines began to swim together. "Special circumstances conforming to Canon 81, we relieve you from the bonds of your vows, declare you reduced to secular state under the following conditions." The 3 conditions were set apart from the body of the letter. She must formally accept the letters of secularization. She must quit the habit of religion and never put it on again. She must agree never to request anything from the congregation for services rendered. In full liberty and after mature deliberation, and then there were blank spaces for date, town name, and signature. She looked up. Something meanwhile had happened to Mother Didyma's face. Beneath the glacial surface there was a suggestion of movement and flowing, as though a hidden spring were trying to break through. "Is there nothing, sister, that we can do?" she asked. "Nothing, ma mère. You would not consider having one more talk with the Reverend Mother Emmanuel before signing?" "No, ma mère. It could only bring pain to both of us." The pain showed in her face, she was sure. She had to wait a moment until her voice steadied. "Because my decision is irrevocable." Was it that irrevocable word irrevocable that made Mother Didyma stiffen again? Or was it the emotion she herself had betrayed when she spoke of the great lonely woman whom she had not the courage to face? She saw the ice close over as Mother Didyma handed her a pen. Afterwards she believed that the ice came to strengthen the Superior for what she had to do next. "This is your copy," said Mother Didyma brusquely. "From this office you will go directly to our affiliated house in Rue Grande. There you will find everything ready for you." The Superior fumbled in her desk as she spoke. She brought forth 4 notes of 500 francs each and held them out for Sister Luke to take. "And there is this in conclusion," she said. Sister Luke stared at the notes, which added up exactly to the token dowry her father had brought to the congregation 17 years before. For an instant she couldn't move. She tried in vain to voice her thoughts. Must I take it? The congregation owes me nothing, nothing. The debt is all on my side and will be forever. Some maniac cried from within, "Take it, tear it up and throw it back." Then she put forth her hand and accepted the money. It was a last act of humility in the convent and the most total humiliation she had ever experienced. The bitter pain of having to end her life in Christ with a money transaction overrode all other feelings and thought, and she was unaware that the Superior was leading the way out, not through the cloister, where she now no longer had the right to walk, but through the parlours where visitors came, and thence through the public foyer to the main door of the hospital. She didn't notice that the customary embrace at the door was not given, nor did it occur to her to kneel there for a departure benediction. The blow to her pride of the next to last act of secularization carried her out of the convent as if anesthetized. That's hard. And in a way, it prepared her for the next step. There was a 15-minute walk to the affiliated house, which was a small boarding school for girls. She walked swiftly, saying over and over to herself, "And there is this in conclusion." Once she thought to take the 2,000 francs from her skirt pocket and drop them in the gutter. But there were a few early risers on the street, and she was still wearing the garb of one vowed to poverty, watchful over centimes. 17 years of respect for the habit could not be undone by 15 minutes of burning pain. The old nun in the porter's lodge at the school nodded from a cubicle that was festooned with pulleys and studded with bell buttons. "Go to room 12, she said. "Everything is ready. Press the button when you are dressed and I will open." We'll do a lucky strike. The room was small and windowless, and it had 2 doors. An unshaded electric light hung over the only furnishing, a table with clothing folded upon it. There was a navy blue suit, 2 white blouses, 2 sets of underwear, and 2 pairs of newly cobbled shoes that looked too large. On top of the underwear pile was the short black veil edged with white which the lay nurses of the country wore in place of hat, and the unused portion of a current book of food stamps. A worn papier-mâché suitcase, such as missionaries brought home to exchange for new ones, stood beside the clothes. As she shook out the second-hand suit, she remembered how once upon a time in the Congo she had caught herself looking at the colonial ladies sipping aperitifs on cafe terraces to see what was being worn in the world that season. "Utex, Leo," she whispered, recalling a handsome block-print summer suit of Congolese cotton. She saw its design clearly, and the woman who wore it, the trivial association overlaid like a protective film already mercifully formed, all the deep abiding memories of the Congo, of Mother Mathilde, of Emile and her black boys, which would have tortured her had they come alive at that moment. She raised her hands and removed her veil. Piece by piece, as she took them off, she folded the nun's clothes in the traditional way. She made herself perform this final act of obedience and penance for the storm of revolt she could not otherwise subdue. She wondered if any other sister going out had been so overcome by the sudden gracelessness of the final convent hour as to yield to the impulse to throw the holy habit pell-mell upon the table. She stripped to the skin and then stood for a moment looking at the 2 doors, the one through which she had entered and the one through which she would leave. There was something furtive in the transition, as if what God permits must be accomplished in shame and secrecy. You come in as a nun and you go out as a civilian. No human eye records the transformation, not even your own, since there are no mirrors. You are even sent to a strange house where you are unknown to make this painful passage out. She shivered and began to put on the rayon underwear that had a peculiar sheen like silk. It felt so light and scant, she had the impression that something must be missing, and looked through the reserve pile to see if 2 of anything were in it. She paused over the white blouses that were not quite identical in cut. It confused her to have choice. The blue suit felt shoddy after the fine spun serges of the nun's habit. What young woman entering the convent had left it behind, and in what year? The sleeves of the jacket were too long. When she had everything packed that was not on her back, she inspected once again the folded black serges on the table, with the starched coif laid atop, like a white shell inside which she had coiled her leather belt and long rosary of wooden beads. Her crucifix she had put in a suitcase without any twinge of conscience. It had been a name day present from her Jesuit uncle years ago in the Congo, and Mother Mathilde had permitted her to keep it. She stood the stout nun's shoes a little farther away from the folded clothing, and fought down a lump in her throat as she looked at the blunt leather toes misshapen from the press of praying. If we were not practiced in daily dying, she thought, all this would be quite difficult to go through with. She picked up the short nurse's veil. There was a small safety pin in the hem of it. The pin, oddly enough, was the coup de grace that brought the first tears, not because it drew blood from her finger as she unfastened it. We have thought of everything, it seemed to say. There is not a single item for which you need ring to summon a sister to that entrance door to see you as you are now. We keep the good sisters from a view of such as you, even as we protected you during all of your years from the distressing sight of one going out. She pulled the short veil tightly over the upstanding crop of hair, whose unkempt texture she could feel but not see, and pinned it closely at the nape of her neck. And now there was just one last thing to do. From her pocket she took the note that the Englishman disguised as a German Gestapo officer had given her. It was as though someone waited for her out there in the street, or courtyard, or cornfield, or whatever it was that the exit door opened out upon. She memorized the Brussels address, then tore the note into tiny shreds which even a nun with all her endless patience could not have put together again. She dropped the confetti into one of the shoes on the table, there being no wastebasket in the room. Then she pressed the button set into an enamelled plaque that said "Pour sortir." She watched the wire rope that ran along under the ceiling between the entrance and exit doors. As it tightened, she murmured, "Oh God, you've permitted me to come this far. Stay near me now for the rest of the way." The exit door clicked and swung open. She picked up a suitcase, pulled once again at the short skirt, and walked out into the world on legs in which the bones had become suddenly as supportless as pillars of cotton. The world was a narrow, cobbled street with early morning sun slanting across it. At the far end, the street ran into a square where a corner cafe was opening for the day. The nurse in her said, "You could do with some of that roasted barley they're using for coffee these days. Besides, it's too early to get your photographs taken." She made a conscious effort to stay away from house fronts and garden walls as she walked toward the cafe. The waiter eyed her nurse's veil and brought her a cup of dark fluid promptly. His elderly face creased in a smile as he served her. "You've probably been up all night delivering a soul into this troubled world, mademoiselle," he said, with a slight inflection of curiosity. "But yes," she returned his smile shyly. "Yes, I have. If mademoiselle has the coupons, there can be a fresh-baked bun." "Thank you, this is quite enough." She picked up the tablet of saccharin lying in the bowl of the spoon, and stirred it into the brown drink. The waiter's instant acceptance of her as a nurse turned her thoughts to the lay veil the convent had given her. "They could have given me a hat in exchange for the one I wore when I went in," she thought, since everything else was such an exact return. She sipped the imitation coffee, the singular exception the convent had made in its choice of headgear, which proclaimed to the world she was a graduate nurse, was the gleam of charity she had sought behind the shocking chilly scrupulosity of the final rendering. Seeing the gleam made all the difference. When she looked up, the square was lively with motion and brightness. After a while, she began to feel like a tourist who had come in on an early train and had time to kill before the shops opened. Her father, an expert in tourism, had always said, "The first thing you do in a strange town is find the central cafe, take a table there, and then sit for a time and watch the world pass by." Without the protecting coif, she seemed to be looking at the world through wide-angle lenses. Off to the right, she saw the waiter dusting tables, then the arc of shop fronts across the square, and a street with a tram line that came in from the left. All movements in the expensive scene she could see without turning her head. A tram bustled into the square, made the loop, and bustled out again. By moving only her eyes, she could follow the people who got off, fumbled in their pockets for keys as they approached their places of business, opened up and went in. Presently iron shutters were rolling up, and here and there a coloured awning descended like a bright eyelid over some special window where, she supposed, there were display goods too delicate for exposure to the sun. An old farmer with a string bag of endives over his shoulder came toward the cafe. He looked over all the vacant tables, then chose the one next to hers. He set his endives down on the cobbles with care, glanced at her suitcase, and smiled. "We've got God's plenty of time to kill before the Brussels train departs," he said congenially. She smiled back at him, but could think of nothing to say. The habit of silence, she reflected, the years of abjuring trivial talk, was just one of the many telltale disciplines she must learn to relax. And she remembered how she had looked with compassion at the two departing companions of her novitiate days, wondering how long it would take them to unlearn only a year and a half of the nun's stylized self-effacement. "There will be help for me with my 17 years to undo. There must be. For every cup of water given in your name," she whispered. She could not know, as she prayed for deliverance from convent mannerisms, that her nun's inner formation was a Gibraltar that would never be levelled, that the ingrained habits of acting with charity and justice, with selflessness and sincerity, were to stamp her always with a certain strangeness, and make her seem to future nursing colleagues like some sort of enchanting revolutionary who practiced a way of life quite new and unheard of. She looked up at the sky as she reminded God of the many cups of water she had given. There was a high, eerie whine pitched on the single note of speed. A thin white streak cut across the blue. "As long as you can hear it, it's not meant for you," said the farmer. "Pray God will never see and not hear them. They make no sound, those V1s, when they drop to target. That one's for Britain again," he said sadly. It gave her an emotion to see her first V1 going over. She had heard them often in the convent, but had never gone to the window to look. She did not know, as she watched the streak of white, that it was a herald of sorts. Just 8 weeks from that morning in August of 44, the V1 warfare was to be loosed on her liberated country, aimed especially toward the main Allied supply line, the great port of Antwerp. She was going to be there in the uniform of an English army medical outfit, worrying then no more of how she walked or talked, but only of the bodies that might still be breathing in the traps of rubble through which she crawled. The Belgian underground was recruiting nurses for that medical corps, even as she sat in the little cafe wondering what the mysterious Brussels address was going to mean for her. She looked out again over the square, which was the world on a small scale, with nothing yet revealed that looked like pitfall for one who had not been about it in it for some time. You can learn a lot in the beginning just by studying what's in those shop windows, she thought. Then she saw 2 Germans in slick high officers' boots strolled in from the street to the left. They stopped a workman, looked at his papers, nodded and passed on. "I must go now," she said to the farmer. She took time to add politely, trivially, "Good profit on the endives, monsieur." Then she picked up a suitcase and walked with the nun's speed, yet no outward show of hurry, to the department store she had been watching open up. That nun's identity card was one document on which no German eye would ever gaze, she told herself fiercely as she glided into the store. A salesgirl directed her to the photography booths on the mezzanine. She sat on a revolving stool before the first mirrors she had been free to look into in nearly 2 decades. Turning slowly, she looked at herself first full face, then in profile. The face seemed surprisingly young beneath the bandana-like veil. One lock of hair escaped from the front and stood straight up like an exclamation point above the analytical blue eyes. "It's not yet grey," she said to the mirrored reflection of a civilian nurse. She sat perfectly still while she put coins in the slot and pressed the button. Lights flew on, and there was a click and a whirring as she stared at herself. Then the lights went off, and she listened to the mechanical camera digesting with watery sounds the composition of lights and shadows it had seen for a second. She stayed in the curtain booth while the photos developed, keeping her eye on the trough through which a printed sign said they would appear. There was one more step before she would be officially a registered civilian. She thought about it a little tremulously as she waited. Just what did one say to a city hall clerk when presenting a nun's identity card to be exchanged for a civilian's? Would the clerk think she was just another one of those underground workers who were always switching identities? Or would he look at her with that peculiar morbid interest you often saw in people's eyes when they talked about nuns who were no longer nuns? As if, she thought, an ex-nun were an escapee from some sort of torture chamber, a little bigger than the Iron Maiden in the Nuremberg Museum, big enough, in fact, to clasp a whole female congregation in its unyielding mold and squeeze the sex out of it, along with every other normal human yearning. "That's all they know of it," she whispered to the civilian nurse, watching her with steady eyes in the mirror. And suddenly she heard the nurse saying back to her the capitulum of Sext, "And I take root in an honourable people, and in the portion of my God his inheritance, and my abode is in the full assembly of saints." And she knew without looking at her watch which office her sisters were chanting at that moment. She imagined she could hear them in the curtain booth, lifting up their hearts all together for the Deo Gratias. Then the automatic camera whirred, and a strip of photos shot into the metal trough. And that's the end, me ending on a word I don't pronounce very well. Trough. And what comes next? She goes to work as a nurse. she meets this author who befriends her, and they move in together and live together till the end of their lives in the 80s. Yes. Wow, that was a short chapter. Oh, hey, cat. What's up? Meow? Say meow? Say hi? No? That's that. Ah. The end. Can't believe we made it without getting rained out. Ever. Sure, there were some days where I switched it Sunday or Monday, but I mean, not because of the weather, actually. I never just switched it because I know. I like that. I like that there's more. Well, obviously, there usually is with a book. Yes, I try not to catch cold, and I'm trying to work on my herbalism skills and make some elderberry syrup and everything. Good for you, so I don't get cold. What are you doing? Yeah, I know, it just gets a little runny out here. But, what was I saying? I forget. Yeah, but we made it all the way through. Thank you. Yes, I'm being nice and warm today. What's next? Oh yes, we're talking about the film. I'm not going to read a book next because the winter is going to be freezing cold. I'm not going to sit out here. But we'll see what happens in the springtime, what's going on, you know, what I might do. You know, always trying to do new things and work towards my goals. You know my big goal here. You guys, someone better start a fan club and start petitioning to let me play Audrey. The production company is called Wild Side. It's in Rome. Start your petitions. I like the book and the movie. I like the book because more does happen, which is usually true of books because you can't fit everything in, you know, a 90-minute movie. I like the movie because Audrey's in it, and it's interesting. Although I do wonder if they were to make a movie version now, what it would be like. I think it would be more realistic. I felt a little bit about it, like some of the acting in the movie was not that good, but there were definitely things I liked. I loved that they filmed it in Africa. You know, some of the acting wasn't that great, but it was, you know, the 50s, so it's different. I'd be interested in seeing what they do. Yep. Smoky today. I'll find other ways of practicing, you know, maybe if I bring my cigarettes around with me when we go out to the town and he strikes up a cigarette, I'll smoke with him. I don't know. A pair of smokers. Because now I won't have my Saturday practice. I'll figure it out, you know. Yeah. What would be next? I'll smoke one more cigarette today since it was kind of a short one. And then, when we're done, I don't know why I chose that one. I like my lavender ones. Yeah, so let's see, what's new? What else is new? Just working on the diary things. What is that? Oh, wow, my first one. That's pretty cool. Thanks. Awesome. Yes, don't forget. Oh, I guess that's possible here. You can do that. I forgot about that. Thank you. If anyone else wants to send what's it called? Super chat or something? And I have the Buy Me a Coffee website set up. It can take donations, and also, you know, you could subscribe and hear my diary readings. Oh, a chestnut. Oh, is that a good one? They're just all over the place. I'll keep that. I collected a whole basket of them today. They're just all over. That's a nice one too. A lot of work to do. I'm gonna make it into flour and make cookies. So good. If you haven't made acorn or chestnut flour cookies, do it. It's good, especially with chocolate chips. Gosh, what else can I say while I'm smoking this last one? I brought up the diaries before, and I can't remember who it was who recommended that software. Are you in here right now? Were you in here in the beginning? Because I held up the diary that I'm trying to... A super sticker. Okay. Oh, hey, it's you! Hi! How am I doing? Wait, did you quit smoking yet? Or was that a while ago you quit? Did you still quit? How am I doing? We should chat soon. I didn't notice the name. It's very small on the screen. Sometimes I miss the... I thought so. I remembered, and I remembered going to your apartment and thinking it still smells like smoke. But I didn't know if you kept up with it. There's so much in there. Oh yes, it's been a boring week and days go by really quickly. And I just do work. I'm at home most of the time. Go out to the town once in a while. Get a coffee. I need to be doing something else. I need like actual work. I feel like by the time it's dinner time, I'm just like, I just woke up and the day is over. You know? Maybe it's true that when you get older, time just goes faster and faster. This is way too fast though. The time is going by. I didn't get to swim this summer. I swam in a pool once. I really wanted to go to the ocean or something. I feel like I didn't have a summer. I don't know what to talk about while I smoke. It's almost over. Yeah, not a lot new. Halloween's coming up. I have no plans. I'll go visit a friend in France for a week. Oh, someone else. Thanks. Oh, what a great day. Awesome. Thanks. What can I say? It's been a good 19 weeks of reading and smoking. I'm gonna have to compare like the first video and the last video and see myself, like how the accent has come and everything. Okay, getting it up my nose now. Any questions, any thoughts before we head out and end the last video? I do want to learn how to make those little O's. Hello. You want to smoke to get a late night? Yes, I want a smoker's voice. No. Just to learn to be Audrey Hepburn, you know, because she smoked so much. I'm not going to smoke that much. How much did she even smoke? She smoked a lot. Did it? I guess it might have affected her voice, but your voice changes as you age anyway. I wouldn't mind my voice deepening a little bit. I talk way too high. Trying to work on that myself. Yes, it is. It is. It's my practice with the voice and the smoking, because I don't know when they're casting. I know they finally hired a writer for it this year, a couple months ago. Smoking while reading, it's a little difficult because, you know, you have to pause. I can't, you know, talk when I'm smoking, and I have to make sure it's away from the book. So, you know, it's a little complicated. So I have to think like, okay, when to smoke, when to read. But Yes, it's my practice sessions here. That's why they're live and not, I was thinking of just like, you know, after a day or two, just disappearing the reading because it's practice. But people like the reading so much that I put them public again for now, at least. Another one, man, they're all over. And we'll just keep it up for a little while. But yeah, I don't know when they're casting. We'll see. We'll see. Her son gives me updates. But I just want to be my best. I'm getting my teeth straightened soon too. I mean, I did that once before, but it's not enough. So as soon as the dentist comes back from vacation, I'm going to set up some new retainers, Invisalign things, because I want to fix my teeth. Yeah. Like personally, I can't, I mean, I don't know. It didn't sound too bad to me, but I know your voice changes when you get older. So I don't know. I wonder what she would have sounded like had she not smoked. You know? I don't know if we can know that. But, yeah. Oh, wait. Let's see. Well, I'm about to go to the movies. Oh, have fun. I want to go to the movies soon. Nothing good was playing right now, so I need to check again and see if, yeah, have fun. Movies. Oh, movies. Tell me about it later. Well, I guess I just hate ending it. I hate saying goodbye. But it is time to end the series. And we'll see what happens next. I'll keep putting up other videos in the meantime. Yeah, I don't know. I'll let you know if I do the audio book. I have to look into how best to do that. But I like the idea. And maybe creating a new, what's it called, edition of the Nun story, since it is out of copyright. Oh, there's a tiger behind me. There he comes. Oh, is it going to attack me? I see you! Boink. Thanks. Thank you. I like my Audrey voice better than my regular voice. Maybe if I talk with her voice enough, it'll like rub off. You know, I should go spend some time in England or something. I'd like to. Hey, yeah, if anyone's up there, I got an offer to model for a workshop up there. Thanks. Yeah, I got an offer to do like modeling for a workshop in Manchester, which I'd like to do, but I think I'm going to see if I can find other work around the UK and kind of plan it at the same time, maybe go on a trip up there in the spring. I don't know. It'd be cool, you know, if I could get work there. Bill it to my Dutch company. Anyway, let's see. I have a little trick for you. Let's see if this works. But I'm not good with magic. I don't know much magic, but I have this little trick, and I'm gonna try the trick. Might not work. Okay, that's in the way. So I have the cigarette, and we are going to say goodbye to the cigarettes. It's gone. Where'd it go? Oh, you had it. Silly. And that is my second attempt at a disappearing cigarette trick. I'd like to get better. I'd like to work on some other magic tricks. I like magic. Just don't have the time to spend learning magic tricks. But I wanted to do something special. Was that impressive? Did you figure it out? I kind of want to attempt another version of that, but I feel like I'm gonna fork it up. Stop smoking. I'll keep practicing here and there. Like maybe when I go out with my boyfriend, maybe I'll join in once in a while to keep up some practice. But since it isn't a habit of mine and I have so much other things on my mind, it doesn't really cross my mind to go smoke. I'm like, oh yeah, could do that. It's not something I don't know what to compare it to. It's not like how I want a peanut butter cup and I go down and get a peanut butter cup out of the freezer, you know, and I just think of the peanut butter cup and I want the peanut butter cup. It's not like that. It's not really top of my mind. But I'll keep practicing here and there with my little herbal cigarettes since I want to be a good Audrey. But this was definitely a lot of good practice. Oh, someone's home. Different. I don't know. Ooh, you know what my concern is? Driving on the other side of the road. I only did it once. Terrifying, especially with roundabouts, because I was new to roundabouts, and I'm like, yay, I can do roundabouts. And suddenly you're in the UK and you're like, I gotta go that way? Oh, terrifying. It is for traveling around the UK. I haven't done it yet, and I'd really like to. I'd like to see England and Ireland and Scotland. And I haven't been very far into England. Just London, Derby, somewhere outside of London. Anyway, I'm gonna say goodbye. I gotta figure out dinner. I think it's my night. But check that out, we made it, Didn't get rained out. I gave you a little magic trick there. Only one person was impressed. But, all right. Thank you, and thank everyone who donated. It's very nice. And I'll see you around. I'll let you know what comes next, but I'm probably gonna stay inside for the cold winter months. So, bye.